Greetings and salutations, I'm Keb, you're you, and this is 80 Days, which is a little bit different from what we usually play, I guess, but yeah, there's a couple of reasons for this. Let's start the game, and I'll explain as we go through the intro. Anyways, London 1872. I have entered into the service of a new gentleman. It would seem he is a gambling man. So, this game is a visual novel kind of game, adventure kind of game, based on Jules Verne's novels, especially, of course, 80 Days Around the World, but also quite a few of his other novels. And it's a very relaxed adventure kind of thing. I rather like it. It's a story game, and it's a steampunk game, by the way. So it's all Jules Verne stuffs, but in a steampunk setting, which is quite interesting, to be honest. Of course, the reason I chose this game was because I needed something that was slightly less hectic, and also because in the last couple of days I've become very aware of how I speak, as in... Oh good, I think the volume is still way too high. One second, so I nerfed this one down way down there. But the high notes of the music is still deafening. Yeah, now of course the music cuts out completely. Yeah, anyways, yeah. One thing I've noticed about myself in the last couple of days is that I speak too fast. I tend to just dump out words as fast as I can, right? The problem with that is that either I'm going to lose my train of thought mid-sentence, which usually happens, or I'm going to stumble because I don't recall the right words. So I want to try, emphasis on that one, to play a game with a lot of reading, where I try to read slowly and just get into the groove of being more clear, I suppose is the word for it. Because I feel like I've been just spewing out words recently and haven't been able to get through. And I can already feel that right now that I'm again starting to, start like a motor mouth, which is not a good way of communicating, especially if you communicate in English and you want to, reach other people. Anyways, that is why I chose this game. So there's going to be a lot of reading. I'm going to try to pace myself and not go through the story too fast. And we'll see how things go. That said, this game is a non-stop game. So whenever there is things to read, the game will pause, essentially. However, when you're in a city, the clock keeps running. There's no pause. So any action in the city I'll have to do fairly rapidly, and without the ability to consult chat too much. But yeah, anyways, as you probably already figured, this is a game based on 80 Days Around the World, Jules Verne's novel, and that's going to be our objective. You, the player, play as Passepartout, his servant, or valet rather. There's a distinction there, and Passepartout would definitely inform you about it. It's very much a difference. And your goal, of course, is to get around the world within 80 days on a budget, because the money you start with is not going to be enough to carry you around the world. So you will have to either wire back for money, which means spending time in a city, or you have to find business opportunities along the way. Also, you can go in many different directions, and not all routes are open all the time. So, like for instance right now, we're going to start in London, and almost always you'll have a route to Paris, but from there, well, things could work out very differently. And there are many ways to go around the world. But I think in the first round we're going to try, to follow roughly the path followed in the novel, which means to Paris. I think the novel basically jumped from Paris all the way to Egypt. Presumably, I think you took the train to Venice and a boat from there. And then you shifted boats in Egypt, and you steamrolled to Bombay, and across India, from Calcutta to Singapore, from Singapore to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to Yokohama, Yokohama to San Francisco, train across America, and I think the port of departure was New York. I'm trying to remember the novel right now. It's been a few years since I read that. But yeah. Now that said, this isn't going to be a reenactment of the novel. As I mentioned earlier, it has steampunk settings, so we'll see things that are quite different than our 1872. Like airships and subterranean trains, or subaquatic trains rather, and quite a few other things. Anyways, enough of me yapping. Let us actually start the game, shall we? But again, you play as the valet, as Passepartout. Your goal is to organize the trip, which means inventory management, itinerary. You have to figure out which journeys to take and which paths to take, and of course, you have to keep Phileas Fogg well groomed. That is very important. But Phileas Fogg is a pristine English gentleman, and if you fail at that, you will be sorry. Anyways, for those of you who haven't read the novel, and I assume there are a few of you, Passepartout, in the novel, Passepartout joins Phileas Fogg's service the day before this journey begins. So they don't really know each other at all. And Passepartout took this job because he expected to have a quiet life in London. That was kind of his whole thing. So he got a rather significant surprise in that. If I remember right, he came from a background where he was involved in a circus or something. I don't quite remember. But some of those things are mentioned in this story as we go along. But anyways, let's start. And as I said, non-stop action in the city, so I'll have to click through things a bit fast, otherwise we're gonna miss our first train. Begin. Anyways, as long as there's text, we have game is paused, but you can see the day and the clock up here are funding, and you probably can't see Phileas Fogg. He's kind of hidden behind me. He has a health bar way behind my camera. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Maybe I should move me camera a little. How would I even put that though? No matter where I put my camera, it's going to be in the way. That's okay. There are very few cases where Phileas Fogg will be very low on health. Anyways, my master returned home from the Reform Club with a strange gleam in his eye. Passepartout, said he, we are going around the world. Pack my hunting rifle and my evening jacket. There is not a moment to waste. You, Passepartout, now have funds. Okay, so we'll do exactly as it tells us. So, one new route has been discovered. Pack. He wants his hunting rifle and his evening jacket. We'll obey. Okay, there we go. That means abandoning the timetable, which would have told us quite a few train routes. But yeah. Anyways, we're gonna have to depart right away because the train will go at 8 o'clock. The Amphitrite Express. Let's embark. Departs in 9 minutes. Go. And off we go. So first you go to the station. This is a mechanical horse, if you don't, by the way. As I said, it is steampunk. So here we go. We leapt aboard the 825 from Charing Cross as the final whistle shrieked its warning. Our journey had begun. And off we go. To Paris. We can converse. And the first one we're going to talk to is Jules Verne. And the clock is actually ticking, so greetings, Monsieur Verne. Passepartout, did you say your name was? What a curious appellation. Begin conversation about Paris. I need to know about Paris. I love the smell of the Seine in the morning. And then we can ask about connections. Paris to Nice. Is it possible to go from Paris to Nice? Yes, I met a man who talked about the Pyrenees Express from Paris to Nice. From Nice to Luxor. Is there a route? No idea. But there are no pyramids at Luxor, only buried tombs. But now listen, tell me, what is this journey of yours? It's a wager, right? Yeah. A wager, monsieur, nothing more. A wager? What a marvelously simple way to motivate an adventure. Let's talk about Nice. Tell us more. Someone will pay well for hunting rifles from Nice. Let's see. Nice to Rome. There we go. The Blue Line ferry goes from Nice to Rome. Okay. Learn new things. From Rome to Alexandria. No idea. You can buy amethysts in Alexandria. You can sell for profit in Cairo. So basically, every time you travel, you can you get this opportunity to talk to people, and you get to know new things. You figure out how to do all the routes and everything. Warner, good evening. Ads happen. I can't stop them. Anyways, so our first encounter was with Jules Verne. This will only happen if you play on the first seed, I think. I think there are 8 different game seeds. So as you complete the game, you're gonna move the game seed up, and you'll have new things happen in the game. It's kind of locked in that way. But yeah, that's gonna be the game itself. So, thanks to him, we now know about a few new routes. The Amphitrite Express rattled along narrow-gauge rails to Dover, where its fins extended and it plunged directly into the channel. Monsieur Fogg made no remark as the dark water pressed against our windows. I thought it so marvelous at the time, but how many marvels were still to come? Indeed. So now we're underwater. The Amphitrite Underwater Express. We'll be arriving in Paris. We splashed up on the rails at Calais and closed the remaining miles to Paris-Gare du Nord quickly. According to today's paper, Monsieur Fogg remarked, the Orient Express now runs as far as Bucharest. So while you find some new routes and everything, so does Fogg. So we get some choices, but I do think we're going to try the southern route here. I'm going to try to go up through Paris rather quickly, because again the clock will be ticking. Send to the market. We know the hunting rifle will fetch our money here. Sell it. That's worth money in Copenhagen. We aren't going to go to Copenhagen. I'm going to buy the other items though. We barely have time, I think, to explore. Explore will do 2 things. Give you new routes. And also tell you the story of that city. So that you have to talk to the makers of the game, Warner. Anyways, I wanted to do this quickly because I know there's a exposition here, and of course I don't know if we're gonna have time to travel immediately, because I believe the journeys close at 5, so we'll see. Anyways, the Exposition Universelle sprawled over the grounds of the purpose-built Palais du Champ de Mars. Hot air balloons sailed gently across the sky, and the powdery light of the Yablotchov candles gleamed invitingly. And then we have some choices. And one of the reasons he's talking about the Siege of Paris, because this is 1872, so we had a recent war with... France had a recent war with Germany. And hence they talk about the siege. Anyways, I suppressed my memories of the siege and visited the exposition. Then you have a few choices here. I went west towards the airship hangar. Past a booth with a husband and wife pair selling panoramic hot air balloon rides to eager tourists. The hangar was crowded with airships. Again, this is an interactive story, so you kind of pick and choose the paths. The hangar was crowded with airships and flying vehicles of all shapes and sizes, attended by sharp-eyed crews from all over the world. And my eye was immediately caught by... and I have some choices. The African-made rigid metal balloon, the Egypt Ifrit class airship, the metal-clad four-propeller Savarkar Atmotic, the bulky coal gas-powered Ottoman Gaiac, the twin-bladed Peruvian gyrocopter. I don't know what you're on about now today, War, but yeah, fine. It has no relevancy to what we're doing, I think. Let's go with the gilded Egyptian Ifrit class airship. We are trying to head towards Egypt, at least. Painted all over with stylized poppies and feathers, it resembled nothing more than a vast flying sarcophagus. Do people really fly in such things? I asked an exhibitor. Indeed, hundreds of them do, and every day, he replied, with a booming laugh. They say the skies of Arabia are crisscrossed with the trails of the Egyptian ships. Perhaps one day soon, Monsieur Fogg and I will find ourselves flying in such a craft. I returned to the exposition center, my thoughts turning with clouds and engine rotors. Avenues sprawled in every direction between the inviting illuminated pavilions of the exposition. Let's see, what are our choices here? I took a stroll down the Avenue of Nations, lined with buildings in the styles of the nations of the world, and manned by foreign delegates in rational dress. Although the newly formed German Empire was a conspicuous absentee in the city it had so recently conquered. The Austro-Hungarian delegation was being harangued by an artificer who looked to me like a farm boy from Provence. The artificer was pointing at one of the soldiers guarding the doorway and shouting in terrible German, "Verboten! Verboten!" What is the matter here? I asked the artificer, and he rounded on me. These Austro-Hungarians, he raged, in peasant-accented French. How dare they? What do they dare? The artificer pointed. That! The soldier by the stand moved suddenly with a mechanical judder, and I realized he was no man at all, but rather an automaton, with an enamel-painted uniform and pewter face. The artificer cursed. These Austro-Hungarians have brought their automated soldiers to Paris, even though war machines are expressly forbidden by the guild. Who knows what danger they might represent? I turned away hurriedly. Crowds of tourists jostled and heaved past, their eyes wide with wonder. So yeah. I headed towards the red and purple tents of the Artificers Guild. Draped with banners emblazoned with their copper lily sigil. Let's see. A steam-powered automaton orchestra played gleaming brass instruments, while a mechanical sommelier popped the cork from a champagne bottle and poured out bubbling over glasses for passing tourists. One of the artificers was explaining the guild's credo to a group of sticky-fingered children. The copper lily stamp of the guild is an assurance of safety and quality, the artificer said, before pausing to gently discourage a curious toddler's ambitions of flight. We build and maintain everything from children's toys, she gestured to a nearby clockwork monkey, which was enthusiastically banging a pair of cymbals, to airship engines, and even mechanical workers. And of course, we're going to be a bit, touchy about this, being a valet, A mechanical valet could never replace a human one, I called out, smoothing my hands over my lapel. The artificer gave me a tired look. It is not a matter of replacement. Human and automata have different skills. An automaton, for instance, will never tire or feel hunger or thirst. It can function happily under the hot glare of the sun, and will not get fuzzy jaw or cotton lung if it works in a factory. But can it feel loyalty or satisfaction in a good day's work? I asked. The artificer released the child squirming in her arms and gave me a lopsided grin. Perhaps one day we will build our automata to feel those emotions. There are many in the guild interested in such things. She raised her voice a little to address the small crowd that had gathered to eavesdrop on our exchange. The Artificers Guild operates across the borders of nations, caste and creed. In which countries? I heckled back. Someone in the audience sighed at my continued interruptions. But the Artificer seemed pleased. All of them, she replied. We have outposts in Bombay, Siberia, Bucharest, in every country of the world, country of the earth. She turned back to the children. When we become artificers, we give up our personal loyalties and swear to use our skills only for peaceful aims. The artificer continued. The cleverest engineers and inventors all working together to shape a better future for all the world. I clapped along with the rest of the crowd, carried along by her strident tones and enthusiasm. The artificer caught my sleeve as the crowd dispersed. You seem a confident sort. How was my speech? I rehearsed it all night. Was it too much? It was very stirring, I assured her, and she gave me a bright, grateful grin as I returned to the central square, stopping here and there to gaze all the wonders of the exposition. My feet were tiring, and the hour was getting late. I returned to Monsieur Fogg, who was eating a meal of plain boiled beef l'anglaise. English beef, you know. He's very English. Did you enjoy the exposition? My master inquired diffidently. So here's the thing, by the way. All the choices you make will have an effect on your valeting skill, which is kind of a hidden value. You get notified about it as it goes up and down. But also your responses with Fogg handles your relationship with him. So during the journey you will become anything with him, I would say. Either a very dependable servant, someone who's just a rascal, a friend, and in some weird cases it goes a little beyond friendship. We'll see if we can get to those parts. It's kind of unlikely. But yeah, it affects your standing with Fogg in a big way, how you respond to him, and of course what actions you take, or choices you make. So I'm trying to make the good guy choices. We'll see how that works out. Did you enjoy the exposition? My master inquired diffidently. And I nodded. You know, we are a servant. We're gonna be. We are a valet. We're not that familiar with Fogg yet. We have to be a bit cautious. Nothing else. No, listen. Now I have a whole bunch of choices. We are unspeakably lucky to live in such an age of invention, I declared. It will certainly make it easier to win my wager, Monsieur Fogg replied mildly. Wager? I demanded. Indeed, I have staked a large sum that we will circumnavigate the globe in 80 days or less. Remarkable. Your character is now dependable, so this is a positive change for us, I think. We are now a little more dependable than we were before. We'll see how this goes. Okay, so next up is travel, if you can make it. The clock stood still while we did all this talking. Depart. Uh-oh, I could go with the train right away, but I do want to go here. Departs in 2 days. In that case, let's head for Munich and see if we can go down to Venice. We're embarking on the Orient Express to Munich. Go.